Okay, so on this lesson, we're doing multi-step equations, which builds upon our two previous lessons. Our first lesson was one-step equations. Our second lesson was two-step equations. And now we're at multi-step equations. So the only difference between two-step equations and multi-step equations is now we have to do something called combining like terms. You've heard that term before, like 5 minutes ago. And now we're going to combine like terms and put it into practice. Now remember, this will be on YouTube for you to look at your house. We have a quiz on Friday over 2.3 and 2.4. 2.4 will begin tomorrow. Okay? All right, so let's look at our first example. 19 minus h equals negative 13. So go ahead and write that on your paper. Guys, I need a little less talking. Okay? So 19 minus h equals negative 13 is our first example. Now, combining like terms, can you combine a whole number with a variable? No. Okay? So it has to have the same suffix. If a whole number has no variable, then you can combine it with other whole numbers that have no variables. If a number has a variable like negative h, we know that that is negative 1h. So can we combine it with the other negative 1h?
Yep. Yes.
All right, so the first thing we do that takes this from a two-step equation to a multi-step equation is we have to combine like terms. Now we see that there's a negative h and a negative h. So what is negative h minus h? Negative 2h, okay? So negative h minus h is negative 2h. So that means we have used this and we've used this, okay? So what are we left with that we need to bring down? And then our equal sign. And then our negative 13, okay? So now we're back to a two-step equation, something that we're more comfortable with. All right, so we see our variable. It's attached to our negative 2. It also has what we call in here a head or a tail. The head comes before the number with the variable. The tail comes after. So ours has a positive 19 tail hanging on, head hanging on there. Okay, so we know that our addition and our subtraction comes first before we even start messing with our variable. Another rule is you don't move your variable. You move everything else away from your variable. So the first thing we would do is we would move our 19. So that's a positive 19. How do we move it?
We're going to subtract it from the side.
Very good. We subtract 19, and we do it on the other side as well, because that keeps our equation equal. If you only do it to one side, you're completely uneven, and you've changed the problem. Okay? So these cancel and make 0, and we're left with negative 2h on this side equals, we have negative 13 minus 19, negative 32. Very good. Okay, now we're back to a one-step equation, which we're comfortable with as well. Negative 2h equals negative 32. Now negative 2h, where our variable is, what operation is that?
Multiplication.
Multiplication. So what do we do to get rid of... Shh, hang on. What do we do to get rid of the multiplication?
We're going to change it to division.
You do the opposite. Very good. You divide. So take your negative 2 away. Remember, this is division, okay? Not subtraction. So make sure you draw the line so you don't get confused. So these cancel, and then you're left with h equals negative 32 divided by negative 2 is what?
16.
Positive 16. Very good. All right, take a minute, copy it down.
Let's take your question.
Yes.
What if we run into an equation where there is no like terms to combine?
I'm sorry?
What if we run into an equation where there is no like terms to it.
Then you just solve it like a two-step equation, or solve it whatever it is. You solve it that way. We're building on top of our other lessons, okay? And so at some point, we're going to take it from multi-step, then it's going to go to two-step, then it's going to go to one-step. That's how you solve an equation, okay? So let's do another one that uses the distributive property. Okay, so another common error that I saw on our quiz on Friday was this right here. Using the distributive property, but not actually distributing the number outside of the parentheses to both numbers inside. You got it where you did it to a lot of you did it to the first number, but didn't distribute it to the second number in the parentheses, or the third number, or however many you have. Okay, so this one, the first thing you do is you use the distributive property. So whatever is outside of the parentheses, you're distributing to inside the parentheses. And if it's right up against it, then it's multiplication. So 6 times 3m is what? 18m. Okay? Now, another key point to this is that if it's multiplication or division, you can combine them. Okay? Combining like terms only applies to addition and subtraction. So be careful with that. So if you see a 6 and a 3m, don't think you can't distribute it because the 3 has an m. When it comes to multiplication, you can. Okay? So 6 times 3m is 18m, and then we just bring down whatever sign is in the inside, and then we distribute our 6 to our 5. So 6 times 5 is what? All right? So now we have 18m plus 30 equals 66. Once again, we're back to a two-step equation. We have a tail attached to our variable, and that's a plus 30. So how do we get rid of it?
Subtract 30 from each number.
Okay? So these cancel out, and you're left with 18m on the left side. And what is 66 minus 30 on the right side? Very good. Okay, now we're at a one step, and it's multiplication. So how do we get the 18 away from the m?
Divided on each side.
Divide.
We get 2.
These cancel. You're left with m equals 2. Any questions?
Nope.